Hello everybody, my name is the Goldman, and today we're gonna talk about the main characters of the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy. Now, are there any confirmed shows or movies with these characters? No. But with recent interviews and reports, there is a good indicator that they will be returning. So in this video, we're gonna talk about what Kathleen Kennedy said in a recent interview, what are the implications on the rest of the franchise, and in what ways will these characters actually be returning. But before we get into any of that, I want to thank today's sponsor, the like button. If you guys all do your best Death Star impression and blow up the like button like it's Alderaan, then the odds of Rey, Finn, and Poe returning will be much higher. In return for hitting the like button, here is a picture of my cute puppies. Thank you everyone so much, and let's get on with the video. In a recent interview, President of Lucasfilm Kathleen Kennedy gave her thoughts on the future of Star Wars. With shows like The Book of Boba Fett and Kenobi coming up, she mostly talked about those. But when she was asked about the future of the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy characters and if they would be returning anytime soon, she had this to say. "Certainly, those are not characters we're going to forget," teased Kennedy of that third generation of Star Wars heroes. "They will live on, and those are conversations that are going on with the creative team as well." So there you have it. There are conversations behind the scenes of us potentially seeing the sequel trilogy characters again. Now, as much as I love hearing this, because you know,
the Goldman is a Disney shill,
we need to be cautious. The biggest reason we need to be cautious is because Kathleen Kennedy cannot be trusted. Now, before you all destroy the unsubscribe button instead of the like button, let me explain. As much as I love what a lot of Disney Star Wars has produced, the fact of the matter is that we cannot trust that an announced project will ever come out. Let's go through the history of times where projects were announced and they either never happened or they were delayed severely. The first one we have is Josh Trank's Boba Fett movie. I know this was never officially announced, but there were so many reports about it that we can basically believe it to be true. Because Josh Trank made the god-awful Fantastic Four movie along with
creative differences,
he was ultimately let go. I never really liked the idea of a Boba Fett movie, so I was totally fine with this. The second example would be the series of films from Benioff and Weiss. The creators of Game of Thrones were at one point hired to not create a trilogy, but a series of films. But this was the first time that we got an official announcement about certain creators that were ultimately let go. The next example is actually the Obi-Wan series. People seem to forget at D23 in 2019, Kathleen Kennedy came out on stage saying the scripts were finalized and that they would begin filming in early 2020. Well, it turns out the series started filming in mid-2021, almost a year and a half after they said they would start filming. So this would definitely count as a serious delay. Up next, we have the most painful one on this list, the Rian Johnson trilogy. Again, there hasn't been an official announcement that this series was canceled or delayed, but the fact that this trilogy was announced in 2019 and we haven't gotten a single update on the project is very concerning. And the last and most recent example we have is Rogue Squadron. Supposedly due to
creative differences,
Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron has been delayed indefinitely. The reason I bring all these examples up is because if we can't trust that official announcements will never come out, then how can we trust that unofficial announcements will ever come out? So with all that aside, I want to talk about the individual characters from the sequel trilogy and what is the likelihood we see them returning and in what way. So let's begin with the main character herself, Rey. When it comes to Rey, pretty much the only way we can really see her return is after the Rise of Skywalker. I've said it before, I don't think the time period between episode 8 and 9 is interesting, so after episode 9 is probably best. While there is a lot of intrigue with her backstory and how her father potentially escaped from the Emperor, even though we technically may see her, I'm not really gonna count that because it's gonna be Rey as a kid or even as a baby. Now, I genuinely believe that Daisy Ridley will one day reprise the character of Rey. For one, Daisy Ridley isn't really doing much these days. Sure, she has some voice acting gigs, but in terms of her being on the big screen, she really hasn't done much. Also, a few weeks ago, there were reports that she met with Kathleen Kennedy. Now, it's very likely that they just had coffee and they caught up on life or whatever, but Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm. She should be very busy and shouldn't have time to have coffee with someone, unless it was about a future project. If Daisy Ridley were to ever return, I'm sure it would be with Rey getting her own series. Now, from the animated front, I still think there's a strong chance that happens too. If Daisy Daisy, for whatever reason, didn't want to return to play the character, then at that point, the only way you can really bring the character back is through animation and have a different woman voice the character. Whether people like it or not, Rey is one of the most important characters in Star Wars, so the odds we see this character returning are very high. Let's move on to Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo. I would be beyond shocked if Adam Driver ever returned to play this character. He is right now a legit A-list actor. Also, he doesn't really seem to have any personal connection with the franchise, so I don't think he has any desire to play the character again. So if we were ever to see this character in live action, it would probably be a younger version with a different actor. So if I had to guess, I would say the best bet for Ben Solo's return is through animation. But that's just my guess. Up next, we have Finn. This one is a little tricky because a lot of people with
sources
have said that a Finn Disney Plus series is in the works, and conceptually this makes the most amount of sense. Rey's arc concluded in The Rise of Skywalker, but there is still so much you can tell with Finn. By the way, just to plug my own videos, I made a whole 18-minute video on how Finn's story should be continued, so if you're interested, go check it out. Now the biggest unknown with this is easily if John Boyega would ever return to play this character. This is tough because there have been a lot of optimistic interviews where John Boyega is saying a lot of great things about Star Wars, but then there are also interviews where he criticized Disney as a whole and the way they treated black characters. Granted, he did say he had a very productive conversation about racial representation and all that, so I think that helps these chances. But if John Boyega would not return, then the way we'd probably see Finn is through animation. But he probably wouldn't get his own show. It would probably be like an ensemble cast with Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, and a lot of the other characters. Either way, I do think there is a better chance we see Finn again soon before we see Rey. Up next, we have Poe Dameron. I think of all the characters I just mentioned, Poe is probably the one we are least likely going to see again. So I would say the chances we ever see a live action Poe again would be very small. Unless he were to show up in Rogue Squadron, if that movie ever does happen, but even then, I think that's unlikely. So if we were to ever see this character again, I would bet that it would be in the animated front. Again, it would be similar to what I said with Finn before. It would probably be an ensemble cast about all the characters of the sequel trilogy. Up next and last on this list is probably a character you didn't expect me to talk about, but I think is the character that we'll most likely see soon, and that's Janna. I personally have no interest in this character, but with the recent reports that the Lando series is going to take place in the present, aka after the Rise of Skywalker, and in the past with Donald Glover, I think there's a good chance that Janna is going to be involved. The Rise of Skywalker did end with Janna and Lando talking about finding out where she came from, so I could see the plot of the show being they would show flashbacks with Donald Glover, and then Janna would try to replicate whatever was in those flashbacks to find out where she's from. And that is all the news of the characters from the Star Wars Sequel Trilogy and their potential return. Thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Please let me know in the comments what videos you would like me to make. If I like your idea, I may highlight your comment in the video. Don't forget to check out the Claude Squad, and I will see you guys next time.